All right, we'll go ahead and get this appropriations subcommittee started today. We have a whole bevy of agencies coming in. First, we're going to start off with wildlife, fisheries, and parks. Mr. Commissioner, thank you very much. Thank you for coming out and joining us. And I'll turn it over to you for your presentation.
Thank you for having us here, Mr. Chairman. Before we get started, I might introduce some of the folks I brought with me. They're all a very integral part of our team over at MDWFP. Russ Walsh, Scotty Jones, Michelle Carter, and Brian Ferguson, and Kathy Roberts, who will be following up my little brief comments with the actual budget presentation. She's our new budget person, and we're glad to have her with us here today. It'll be her first presentation other than the one she did the other day with the House. So again, thank you for having us here today. And I first want to start by telling you how much we appreciate the support y'all have given us over the last few years. That support has made a difference in what we're able to get done. And on behalf of the MDWFP, our Mississippi sportsmen, and all the folks who use our state parks, WMAs, lakes, and museum, again, thank you very much for your support. It's been really good support over the last couple of years, and the agency needed it, and we're very thankful for it. I want to talk briefly about what we've been able to accomplish in 26, thanks to what y'all have given us to work with. I think one of the most important things we've seen is the improvement of our conservation officer retention. We were able to give about an average salary increase of about 8%, which has helped keep our officers in the field, and it's cut down the severance as far as our employees in that law enforcement declined 59% over the last 3-year average, so made a big difference there. We continue to invest in officer training, leadership, development, and wellness, which helps our officers better serve the public. And I like to make the statement that our people, we touch the lives of people in all 82 counties every day. We're out there in the field and talking with the people. We continue to invest in officer training and leadership development and wellness, and it helps our officers better serve the public. We also expanded our youth engagement programs, shooting sports, hunter education, and boater education programs from the appropriations that y'all have given us, and our ability to draw some other money from other places. State Parks has been a tremendous program that y'all have had an impact on, and the investment y'all have made in us to making them. We've made major upgrades to our cabins, lodges, campgrounds, and other facilities. We brought a running from day one when we started this park operation. We started a spreadsheet. We've updated it on a regular basis, and one's here for y'all to take a look at your convenience. One of the things we found out has made a big difference in our parks is we've added added tiny homes. They've been a big hit, and we plan to expand more into the tiny home business as we move forward with this other round of hopefully capital improvement that we'll be asking for, capital expense money we'll be asking for. All of us supports tourism across our state, and which is it's a big industry in and of itself, and we're glad to be a part of that industry. We have a fisheries bureau. We were able to raise with the two hatcheries that we have. We put over 1 million new fish in the waters, the public waters in the state of Mississippi. We've completed restoration and trail improvement project at state lakes using dedicated conservation funds. We've also hosted youth fishing events across the state that have introduced thousands of young people to outdoor recreation. That's a big thing with us. We're trying to invest in the future of outdoors, and the future is the kids we have coming up today, and we're trying to get them more involved in outdoor activity. In wildlife management, we expanded public land access through land acquisition and continued habitat and infrastructure projects. We're still fighting chronic wasting disease. That's not a good story. Y'all give us kind enough to give us some little money every year to work on that. But as of today, we've taken over 6,200 samples this season, and we've had 117 deer tests positive. So it's not going away. Really want to brag for just a second on the Museum of Natural Science. Y'all give us some capital expense money last year. We're working on making the interest bigger. We've actually really outgrown the size of the exhibits coming in. We had to make it bigger to get the exhibits inside. But what we're really proud of is our museum was just recently reaccredited by the Alliance of Natural Science Museums, and that's a distinction that less than 4% of the museums nationwide have achieved. We're improving the outdoor areas around the LaFleur's Bluff area over there where the Natural Science Museum is, and education and outreach continue to play a big part of the museum's role. And you'll see we have a request in there to continue that outreach as we get a little into the budget. As we look ahead, we still have many of the same responsibilities we had last year as we came here. We want to retain our conservation officers. We have facilities, wildlife resources, and public programs that require ongoing attention. And our use of parks and programs continue to grow, and we need to be prepared to keep up with that demand. One of the things that we don't want to do is invest all the money that y'all have given us and then turn around and let the parks run down like they did before. So we try to build into place a program that would keep the parks not only up to date but clean and useful to the public. We'll turn it over now to our budget person, Kathy Roberts, and let her present our 27 budget request. And we'll ask any questions you need us to at proper time.
Good afternoon. If you'll turn to the center section of the handout, which is pages 2 and 3, our funding request is broken down by fund on page 2 and details of our capital expense and educational enhancement projects on page 3. I'll begin at the top of page 2 with our general funds request. Salaries for state parks, $7.4 million. This is a $700,000 increase from the previous year. Salaries for the Museum of Natural Science, $3.7 million. This is a $266,000 increase from the previous year. Law enforcement salary expenses, $10.1 million. This is a $1 million increase from the previous year. Wildlife chronic wasting disease, $400,000. This request remains the same as the last fiscal year. All of our general fund increases are for new hires, progression, and funding for the career ladder. The total general fund request is $21,668,136. The next section is state support, which is the capital expense fund and the education enhancement fund. If you look to the right on page 3, I will go through the request by project. Starting with state parks, the total capital expense request is $18.8 million, which includes 6 parks. I do want to mention that this request will complete the 5-year state parks capital improvement plan. JP Coleman, $4.5 million, upgrading 50 campsites. Percy Quinn, $1.2 million. This is to make improvements to the hotel, lodge, and day use areas. Lake Lincoln, $5 million. These funds will be used to improve campgrounds, day use areas, and facilities. Lake Lowndes, $750,000. The roof on the multi-sports complex needs to be replaced, and the day use areas and restrooms need to be upgraded. Trace State Park, $1.8 million. A large amount of traffic has deteriorated the road, making it difficult for large RVs. The park has had a noticeable decrease in visitors because of the bad road conditions. Waldoxie, $5.5 million. This will be for renovations and upgrades to the lodge, administrative buildings, and campgrounds. On the next section, law enforcement, we are requesting capital expense funds totaling $1,250,000 for 2 different projects. The first project is a special response team facility, $1 million. This facility is located at LaFleur State Park, and it houses all of the equipment for our special response team. It also serves as a central deployment area. Major repairs and upgrades are needed, as well as better security to protect this equipment. The second project is the Central Region Office Building roof, $250,000. This building is located at the Turcotte Shooting Facility. Law enforcement interacts with the public on a daily basis for shooting range needs, license sales, boat inspections, among other things. The roof on this building has been patched multiple times and needs to be replaced. The next section, state lakes, fisheries. We have a $2 million capital expense fund request for Lake Lamar Bruce. These renovations would include new campsite pads to accommodate bigger RVs, electrical upgrades, asphalting the road that is currently gravel, and building a bathhouse. The section at the bottom, statewide education initiatives. This is for the Educational Enhancement Fund. This is a one-time request of $1,125,335, and this is to purchase mobile teaching vans. These vans would provide an opportunity for the museum to promote an understanding of wildlife and conservation to children outside the Jackson area and in rural areas throughout the state. So the total request for state support is $23,175,335. At the bottom of page 2, for special funds, we are requesting a total of $86,988,438 in authority to support federal grants and other agency activity. For wildlife, fisheries, and law enforcement, $69 million. State parks, $12 million. Natural Science Museum, $1.9 million. Special projects, $1.7 million. Motor vehicles, $1.3 million. There is an $11 million increase in special funds from the previous year. This $11 million increase includes $5.6 million for new and ongoing outdoor stewardship trust fund projects. In the section at the bottom of page 3, the blue section, we are requesting 597 pens. This number does include 20 pens for the next cadet class, as well as 12 additional pens needed to fill positions throughout the agency. If you will turn on the back on page 4, there's a summary of our FY27 request with the differences from the previous fiscal year. Y'all have any questions?
So first of all, I'll say, thank you very much for your presentation. You did a good job. It's your first time doing it for us. I like the handout. You did a good job with handout as well. When it comes to general funds, I was watching those extremely closely, and I know that noticed that you have plus-ups on all of those except for the chronic wasting disease component. What I would like for you to do is at a later time provide me kind of a breakout of where those where the additional dollars would be used. And I know you listed a few of them, with enhancements and some realignments and some, just give me some breakdown of what that looks like individually. So we had salary increases last year that we approved for law enforcement side, and I want to make sure that those salary enhancements that we did actually got to the agents that are in the field, and I just would like to see that demonstrated and how you can provide us some evidence of that. With respect to state support, I do want to go through the state park capital improvement plan a little bit more, like to some additional information on the tiny home program, Commissioner, if you would. I'd like to see what that cost, what your anticipated ROI is, and what are the expenses annually for reaching that program. And anticipated life cycle is going to be for those particular structures. With respect to your special fund authority, I'm just curious real quick on the motor vehicle. Are you getting federal funds for motor vehicles, or where are you getting revenue for the 1.3 million that you have listed for motor vehicles?
We collect that there at the office. It's Brian, what do the money is?
It's through license sales.
The license.
License sales, but in you using the license sales to purchase additional vehicles. Okay.
I think that's by statute that we would use that
Yes, sir.
for the vehicles.
Okay. Would like these days we'll get this microphone system looked out. for the time being. And so when your pins requested, to see a breakdown of where those pins are located, how many are being stated for LBR, and giving a history or at least some knowledge of how that, of where those pins stand and why they've been vacant for that amount of time. I do. Chairman Suba is in here as well, and he's policy chairman. I'm glad to have you here with us. So before I open up anything else, is there anything that you would like to ask or request of?
Yeah, I just had a couple questions. On the $18.8 million on the state park improvement plan, you said that will complete the renovations on all our state parks.
It'll complete the major state parks that we actually use and own. There's always gonna be some, a roof here, a roof there, but that will come pretty close to completing all of that. And, I wanted to add, as far as the $18.8 million request for the parks, we can draw about 7.8 million down for match money, so that'll give us a total additional investment of 26.6 into those parks if we're able to get that much capital expense money.
But, I know we've got the spreadsheet we've had for a few years. And this is gonna be all the parks that were on the spreadsheet.
Sir?
That would be all the parks that we have on the spreadsheet that we've been working on for the past three.
Some of them may not be added yet because they would be just coming no work's been done on some of these. Some of them has been a little work done, but no major work done on the new request.
Right. Do y'all have any intentions, like with our core parks? I know, they're owned by the Corps, but, we are using them.
We stay in constant contact with the Corps, and we're negotiating with the one up in North Mississippi to possibly swap a deal, but no, we have no intention of spending any money on none we don't own.
Do y'all have any current leases or what's the long-term, I guess, plan with the parks, with those three core parks? I mean, doing the long-term leases with the Corps?
We have leases in place with all the core parks, and I think some of them are still long-term leases. Originally, they were done for 25 years, and now we're doing them for 5 years at a time because the Corps has a real strict lease, and we don't want to enter into any more than we have to, but we need enough time to justify leasing them.
And changing subjects here, but going back to CWD, I see y'all just requesting the 400,000 that y'all have had. What what are some future plans? Because as you said, I mean, you've had 100+ cases, this year. I mean, is there anything we can do? Anything we can, I don't know, push to maybe try to reduce this further, or is there's just no stopping?
Well, I guess the one good thing about the CWD is we're not in this battle ourselves. It's a lot of nationwide, a lot of states have this, and everybody's trying to fight it. The science that we're using is just, and the money we're using, is basically to try to do a lot of the testing that we have to be able to test the animals and see where they're located and where they might be located. We're actually running some studies with some of that money up and down the Mississippi River. We're actually finding those prions that cause the CWD in scrapes, no dead animals, but the disease is there. So there's, every once in a while we hear of some type of breakthrough, and I'm not a biologist, and we can probably have Russ talk a little bit more about it if you need him to, but we're using that money. It's big help to collect the samples that we get there.
And this is pretty much people reporting the animals. I guess it's mandatory in the CWD zones, but I mean, these are mainly.
We get a lot of taxidermists that that are taken out and go. We pay $10 a sample for a taxidermist to take that and preserve that gland that they take out of the deer and turn it into us.
Are y'all doing any kind of live testing?
The live testing hadn't been perfected yet. It's got about a 60% rate of detection probability there. So we're not doing any live testing, but some of the labs that we use are trying to start doing some of the live testing, but it's not 100% at all, about 60 at best.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all the questions I have.
Okay, before I open it up to the floor, I want to ask one other question real quick. In previous years, you've provided the same format following the capital improvements for the plan. And in modifications to this plan in my adding any additional projects, or have there been any adjustments to the costs over last year?
No, that's that 5-year plan is the original 5-year plan that was put in. So we've been working that plan since 2020.
And in years past, we've talked about projects that were not included on this plan that were things that popped up throughout the year. And I can remember some of the locations, but not exactly everything. But I just want to make sure that I'm using the same reference point and the same spreadsheets for everything so that I can track what projects have been completed and where we are.
So that's accurate. About 95% of that. We may have added a project. I think maybe a tiny home project got added to this recently, but this is the original 5-year plan.
Okay, and if you came back and you were asking for capital expense requests for last year, there were some projects that were listed on there where you had some preliminary engineering or work that was completed. And then this body asked you to go forward with some of that pre-engineering and make ready cost to, so that when we did appropriate that money, that you would be able to move to construction rather quickly. And I remember that y'all did a very good job of showing us exactly that was broken out, and the fact that you did go forward with that pre-engineering and those make ready costs. So I want to say thank you for doing that. Mr. Chen, thank you for joining us. Mr. Vice Chair, either one of you have a question?
I do have a question about that. I walked in late and I apologize. Former Senator Posey, good to see you. But I heard 18 million getting kickback. I heard 18 million. Is that to complete all the projects that are on the list?
That would complete the major project in the park system.
Okay. Do you have any other R&R needs that we haven't addressed?
That's the majority of what we would need to pretty much, in our mind, complete the up to 90% or so of the major parks that we have, not excluding the core parks and the parks that are leased out.
You know, one thing we've talked about in the past is are there some parks that you're not really getting much use out of that you could either lease, I hate to say eliminate, but lease or turn over to other entities to be able to administer that, or that would kind of take them out of your area?
We talk to different entities about some of the smaller parks that are more community parks than they are, statewide parks, but
Right.
We've talked to them about that, but we've not entered into agreements with anyone. There's some we can look at if that's what you instruct us to.
Well, I just, it's come up over the years from time to time as to whether or not there's some who we're getting much bang for our buck on, and it's always worth keeping an eye on it. And I would, we would want to hear from you and your team as to whether or not that's something that we should look at. So just keep us updated on that if you would, if you see anything, because we want to be a good steward of the tax dollars and maximize the funds that we have going to the parks where we're getting a lot of use. But on a lighter note, I just want to know what animal would Senator Silver's jacket, what animals could be hidden, not be able to see him wearing that jacket he's got on today? Can you tell us that? You have a biologist in here who can tell us that.
I think most any mammal don't be able to see that one.
Land shark.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. I know there's another question. I know we're pressed on time, but Senator Barnett, go.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question is, and I've asked this question probably the 10 years since I've been here. Who makes the determination, or how do you all determine what lakes are in need of services versus others? Because I think I've been asking now, probably since I've been here, like Lake Claude Bennett, that's near me. I watched the road go from bad to worse, and it's getting worse every year to be able to access it. I know there's a lot of campgrounds there, and a lot of people would like to camp there, but they can't because that's not being kept up. There's no money being spent on that now. So my question is, how long do we wait for something to completely fall apart before we start to work on it? Because that's what I've seen, uh, particularly with that lake. And I'm not saying that there's not any more around the state that's like that, but how far do we let it go before we start to try and work on it?
Well, we have a fisheries bureau that kind of manages the lakes for us, and you know, really, the truth of the matter is, money will cure anything. If we had enough money, we could go there tomorrow and start work on it. But we try to prioritize our requests for the parks and the lakes that are getting the most use. And obviously, when they're not getting the use, it's maybe because they're not up to par. But so, it's a money matter for us. We've got so much in the budget, and we try to prioritize the spending to make it go where we think the best spent.
Well, that's the question I was going to ask. If it's not being kept up, then how do we encourage people to go and visit a lake or to want to camp there or whatever it is when it's when it's just falling down around them? And how do we encourage that and to not be able to fix it? I've talked to every person that's managed their lake, and they've told me the same thing. We keep making these requests. They know the situation that's going on, but there's no money being spent here. There's no money coming in to address the issues that are at this lake.
I kind of want to clarify, Mr. Posey's talked about on the funding side of it. State lakes are a little complicated because you have federal dollars that can be spent on specific parts of the lake, but can't be spent on others. So the capital expense request that we have this year, and we did start off with some of the state parks, but we're starting with the capital request for Lake Lamar Bruce now because the campsite and the roads and some of that infrastructure we can't use our federal dollars for those expenses. So these requests that we're coming to ask for capital expenses are the dollars that we can use to renovate those campsites and those things because we don't have any dedicated funding for any of that specifically for the lakes. So it's always a money. It always boils down.
Understand that, but if it's not accessible and the amenities there run down, then how are we going to ever? I mean, has that ever been thought of?
Absolutely.
If we can't get there, then how do we fix it?
I think we get there with some of the requests that we have for some of the capital expense, like Lake Lamar Bruce, will be better when this is funded so that we can get in those parks and make those upgrades. We do identify them. We do know that those problems exist. It boils down to how much funding we can get to make those corrections, though.
Senator, I'm sorry, which park was that you were inquiring?
Lake Claude Bennett, that's up in Paulden, and I've been asking about this lake and asking about it, and I keep getting the same answer every year. And every year that I have to ask this, then of course everything deteriorates just that much more. So I just feel like if we could have put some money on the front end, then you won't have to spend so much money after it's completely falling apart to get it back to where it could have been better along the way. And that's my question. Why do we wait so long to let it completely deteriorate before we decide to do something about the problem? And that's not just with you all. I noticed that with a lot of our agents, with a lot of things that we have in the state of Mississippi. We wait till it completely falls apart, and then we want to try and fix it versus trying to be more proactive. We've been a lot reactive on things instead of being proactive, and I think that's the answer that I've been getting lately, that we'll react to it when we have to, but we won't be proactive and try to do something about it now while we can. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I've made a note on that on my account, my paper here, and I'll get back with you on that as well. I know we're bumped up on time, but Senator Sparks, you had a question real quick.
Just wanted to make sure on the capital improvement plan real quickly, the first item is Tishomingo RV upgrades. I want to you may be aware of this, but that was money my predecessor, J.P. Wildman, got before he left the Senate in 2019. That money was to go to Haynes Lake repair and to the bathhouse renovations. The department chose instead to draw down federal money and turn it into $1 million and build 24 RV pads, which are glorious and beautiful, and I'm very proud of that. But that was way before you put this 5-year plan together. Tishomingo Park shows up again on page 5, and it's all zeros and something offline. I would like for you to tell me where we are on Tishomingo State Park and remind that that $1 million was before this 5-year plan ever came online. The second thing is your tiny home program. Again, you can answer this offline, but that went out for a bid, RFQ, RFP, RF something. And one of your employees was at a location in my district where they have tiny homes, went out, looked at them, said, those look great. Y'all should put in a bid. And I reached out to the department. The bids were closed. That's fine. Then DFA wasn't going to open the bids again. I'd like to know where we are on this tiny home bid program because I believe it was much more economical if they would have had a chance to bid. And I don't like it being closed and not reopened on a program such as that. So that's all I have.
I'll ask the commissioner and his staff to get with the chairman on that if you don't have a mind. Any other questions real quick? If not, on the next agency. Is there anything else? I will go ahead and close this meeting at this time. Thank you, senators, for joining us today. Mr. Chairman, thank you.
You know. Well, I think I got talked to, but they're still talking about it. Yeah, yeah, no, I don't. I know they've communicated, but I don't know to what extent. I'll find out and get back with you.
Nobody ever called Jerry.
Testing 1, 2. Check testing 2.
I'll go ahead and open this up. Subcommittee hearing for Department of DEQ. Chris, thank you very much for coming before us today. I'll go ahead and open the floor up to you. Thank you, sir.
I'm on now. Appreciate y'all having me. I want to start with just kind of what we're dealing with and how we're trying to deal with that. And this is, I'm sure, the same song, different verse that you've heard from other agencies. Our issue continues to be holding on to folks. Retention is an issue, and being able to do the job and do it at the level that we expect of ourselves and that you expect of us with the people that we have. And I know we're here to talk about appropriations, but money is not everything. It's not the solution to the sole silver bullet solution to all of our issues. But just to give you a feel of what we're dealing with, from a turnover rate standpoint, if you looked at our turnover rate the way HR folks calculate turnover rate, it's running about 11, 12, 13% every year, which doesn't sound like a whole lot. But just to kind of put it in perspective of what that really means on the ground, so to speak, in October of 2024, we had 351 employees on payroll. In October of 2025, we had 351 employees on payroll, same exact number of people. Why does October 24 and 25 matter? It was because that's when we do our onboard day. In October of 2025, when we had our onboard day for new employees, we had 44 people, new employees in a 12-month period. And the onboarding class was 44 people. We still had the same number of people on payroll. The point being that there's constant churning. 37% of our staff has less than 5 years of service. 56% has less than 10 years of service. 56% of our agencies. You look at a graph of our demographics, if you will, from a years of service standpoint. Instead of a bell curve, we have a U curve, and 22% of our staff is in that 10 to 20 year tenure timeframe, and that matters because we're not. It shows you that we're not building our bench. We've got really good people. And those folks in that 10 to 20 year range, those are your managers, branch managers, division chiefs, workhorses. And we've got some really good ones in that generation, if you will, or that group of folks. There's just not enough of them. And with that constant churning at that 37% with less than 5 years of service and 56% with less than 10 years of service, those are consistent numbers. If you look back over the last several fiscal years, you'd see that same thing. It's staying at that number, meaning that people are coming in, they're staying 5, 6, 7 years, and then they're leaving. And we're not building that bench of folks to take over in the next. So I'm not so much worried about right now. I think that things like the $20 billion data center announcement that was made a week or two ago, where XAI is locating and constructing their largest supercomputer in the world in South Haven, Mississippi. And one of the things that the governor picked up on that was tweeted, I don't think that's the real word anymore, but X'd by Elon Musk himself, talked about the insane speed that Governor Reeves and his team worked at. Well, that part of that team was DEQ. And we were able to turn things around and get them answers and do what they needed in order to start operating, not by circumventing the law, but by enforcing the law. But we had people that are experienced and knew what they were doing, and were able to turn those things around. And that's just one example. And we pride ourselves on being part of the economic development apparatus of the state. But at some point, my fear is that at some point that's going to become the chickens are going to come home to roost. And we're getting the job done right now. And I think the proof is in the pudding there, but I'm concerned about 5 years, 10 years from now. And if we aren't able to stop the bleeding, that's going to become a problem. Now, I hasten to say, and as I said a minute ago, money's not everything. And I do want to, if you'll indulge me, I want to take a minute to talk about some of the things that we're trying to do to maximize the staff that we do have. Because we've been running about 350 employees for several fiscal years run in a row now. We feel like we really need to be up around 375, 380 with some vacancy, carrying some vacancies for management flexibility. But we need 375, 380 on, is what we really feel like we need to have on staff, on payroll to really efficiently get the job done. And we've not been able to get there. We've not been able to increase above that 350. And there's a lot of reasons for that. There's no single reason for that, but we have been trying. We've posted 29 job postings, for instance, just since July 1st, just the first 6 months of this fiscal year, we posted 29 job openings, conducted 75 interviews. We've offered 22 jobs, made 22 job offers. We're trying. We're trying to recruit people, but we still had 44 new people in a 12-month period. So what can we do to try to maximize, being a good head coach, right? I want to get the best I can out of the players that I have. And so we're looking at things like AI. We need to employ AI, not to take people's jobs away from them, but to help the people that we do have, give them the tools that they need to do the best they can and to do as much as they can, be as productive as they can. And if we can, and we're working on some AI tools. We're working with Gulf Coast Community College, and they're developing an AI curriculum, and they're working on proof of concept, at least for us, on a couple of tools to help with administrative stuff. Like, it may sound on some level small potatoes, so to speak, but travel paperwork. We do a lot of traveling, in-state in particular. We have people on the road all the time. Just the time that it takes somebody to process paperwork, travel paperwork, if we can cut that down, it would, not only does it free up our technical staff, spend less time dealing with paperwork, but it helps our administrative staff processing all of that. So we're working on that. Invoice processing is something that they're also helping us work on. We're working with a contractor to help develop an AI tool that will help review and process permit applications. Right now, we get a permit application in and a human has to review that and look and see are all the required elements there, is all the information that we need. If we can cut that review time down by using AI to do at least completeness review at the front end, it saves time for our technical staff and allows us to turn permits around more quickly with the staff that we have. So we're looking at those kinds of things, again, not to take people's jobs away from them and not to replace people with AI, but to help the people that we have do their job as efficiently as we can. We've asked, and you'll see some bills that have been introduced to help us be more efficient on some things, like the amount of time that we spend and send people on for public hearings on certain permits. Currently, the statute requires us to have those public hearings, and more often than not, the majority of time, it's just us and a court reporter, and we've sent staff to go to a public hearing, to conduct a public hearing that the statute requires us to conduct, but there's no public interest. So you'll see a bill that's been introduced to allow us the option to conduct a public hearing when there's one that is appropriate, when there's interest in it. If there's not public interest in a particular permit, then we save that time. Another one is to allow us the maximum flexibility to put programs where we need them and deploy human resources where if we've got folks in one branch of the agency that are doing certain inspections, and we can reduce the number of inspections that they're doing and move them around and deploy them where there's an overload somewhere else in the agency. I want to be able to do that, but right now there's some statutory impediments to that. So we want to remove some of that. We want to get rid of a fee that makes no sense. That costs us more we've got a fee that's $10 for a well driller fee or well, drilling a groundwater well. It costs us more to collect that fee than the fee is. It certainly doesn't cover the cost of the program. So instead of coming in here and asking you to give us authority to raise that fee, we're just suggesting eliminating that fee. We're trying to do some of that kind of stuff. We are looking at reorganizations within our agency to maximize, maximize the staff that we have. We're looking at hiring interns through the generosity of a private foundation. Mississippi State got some grant funding, and one of the things that we're able to do with some of that grant funding is to hire interns. And we have found historically, if we can get our books in somebody, if we can show them what a great place DEQ is to work, we have a much better chance of recruiting them and keeping them down the road. We are and have been increasing our contractual expenditure on professional services, particularly engineering support. That is a cost to the agency. And so I use that as a segue to get back to what we're really here to talk about is funding. Our contractual expenditures just for engineering support, setting aside all the other contractual things that fall under contractual budget line item. Our expenditures for engineering support services, permit writing, and that kind of thing has gone from $494,000 in FY20 to this year. We're on pace to spend $1.97 million, almost $2 million in contractual services. Point being that we're getting the job done, not with 351 employees, but with 351 employees plus more and more contractors. It is what it is. And so you'll see, and I've given everybody a handout. One of the things I wanted to highlight on our handout there, one of the things that we're asking for is an increase in an additional $500,000 to make sure that we have enough to cover the contractual expenditures that we're incurring. And those contractual expenditures, Mr. Chairman, that I'm talking about here are separate and apart from the pass-through legislation that you introduced a couple of years ago. We've got that program up and running. If those who aren't familiar with it, a permit applicant can come to DEQ and they can voluntarily ask us. It's a voluntary program. They can voluntarily have us assign their permit to a contractor in a turnkey fashion, where that contractor steps into our shoes, does all the work, and the applicant can pay for it. Now, we have avoided the use of the word expedite because we can't really make guarantees. It depends on the demand and capacity of the contractors and everything else. But what it absolutely does is open up an express lane. If you're at Walmart, I'm sure y'all are like me. You go to Walmart and you look around and you say, why do they have 15 lanes if they only have 2 of them open, right? So what we did was we opened up another checkout lane and gives folks an option. And people are starting to take us up on it. But the contractual expenditures that I'm talking about are separate and apart from that.
Chris, let me stop you just for 1 second, if you don't mind, and I apologize for interrupting you, but we are going to be, I know that we're pressed on time. I know you started a little bit late. I want to drill down and get to a point where we can talk about the budget. So if you would, it
was actually the perfect timing. I don't mind getting the hook.
I apologize for, I didn't interrupt you on that.
No, that's fine. I actually, that's a great segue. I have broken down for you on this handout sort of the key numbers. You'll see on the left-hand column there under the various headings, base salary, the number that we're asking for. The bottom line number of $274,824,144 that was in our September formal budget request. We're not asking to change that at all. But within that, what we are asking for is a base salary number of $33,209,934. That includes, and that is based on our current payroll plus 10 vacancies that we hope to fill we hope that we can increase our head count between now and the end of this fiscal year. And so we've asked for that to be included in that base salary, plus $425,286 for the progression funding, and that is for budgeted benchmarks, career ladder in particular, but educational benchmarks, but primarily career ladder benchmarks, progression funding that was not accounted for in our salary cap number in last year's appropriation bill.
Okay, so you have these additional needs that are here.
The
You know, what really helps us out is that we need to know where the source of funding comes from. So if you're making a request for an increase, your of your stuff is split between federal programs or special support stuff.
You could put general funds by all of the additional needs. I'll
Okay.
just tell you. And the reason that is because we already max out all of our federal grants.
Okay.
And we have not raised any, substantially raised any of our fees. We do have a few programs that have sufficient fees to cover the program. Title V is the primary one that comes to mind. But by and large, the average employee is paid a third through fees, a third through federal grants, and a third through general funds. We already, the fees are not going up. We already draw down every dollar we can in federal grant money. So any increase that we get has to be general funds.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that make that as a note that it was
Yes, sir.
a request
I'm
for
glad you asked
additional
that.
general funds. Mr. Chairman, I see.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me just, for clarity, so you need the 13, you were at 377, you went up 390 with the additional 13 we gave last year. You're at 380, or you're 380 LBR, but you went back to 390. And am I reading this right? You want additional 15 on top of that?
No, I'm glad you asked that. The 15 that we're talking about, that 1.3 million in base salary and 433 in 618 in progression funding, that would be related to 15. Okay, so let me say it this way. We have about 40 vacancies on our roster right now because we're at 350 actual employees and 390 headcount appropriated.
Right.
We want to fill and what we were hoping to fill is 25 of those to get us up around 375 is what we would like to do.
So it's 380, okay?
And so and the answer to that
Can you
is,
throw 390, do you think?
I don't know that we'll get to 390 in the short term. The problem with reducing 10, last year we were given 13 new
Right.
pins, but immediately 8 of those were accounted for by 8 escalated pins that we had that were filled, that were immediately converted to time limited, and that accounted for 8 out of the 13 additional. So if we lose 10, then that means we would have to find 5 new pins to abolish. It wouldn't be us abolishing 5 of we would abolish 5 of the ones we got last year and 5 more. So it
Yeah.
would cut us deeper than you might think.
Yeah, just, I know how to, because unfortunately, you're not the only one that has the same dilemma. And it's we tie up, and the chairman knows this, we tie up the fund, when we put too many head counts in there that we can't really fill, we tie up funds that we can otherwise utilize for something else. And, so anyway, we'll talk about it more as we go through the
I'm
session.
glad I will say, and I won't dwell on it, but I'm glad you asked the question because it allows me to say that we've run into several problems vis-a-vis the personnel board and managing the staffing that we have, the head count that we have, because we don't operate in a pin pool kind of fashion. We have the pins that we have that we're appropriated or deployed where we would need them and would like to have them. And we currently have a number of branches across the agency that have either no staff under them because we've had to eliminate them or one staff. And that has caused some problems from a job classification standpoint, because personnel board would like for us to have a ratio of supervisors to workers that we don't currently meet. And part of it is because we had people that once supervised folks and no longer do. And so some of it is, I understand what you're saying, but
Just in the interest of time, because I know we're running late, you and I and the chair can get together at some point soon and talk about that. 'Cause I'd like to drill down on that a little bit more.
Yeah, and I think it's just a comment as an overall statement from from me working on your budget over a number of years. We've done very specific and guided appropriations and or general bills to help the efficiencies within the agency. And I would like to see evidence that those investments and those additional expenditures are resulting in in a reduction in backlog of either permitting side or some other efficiencies. And specifically in the program that you were talking about, where the applicants to go out and provide accelerated lane. I know that the agency has always said that is, we're not doing that to expedite, but there is an anticipation by the public and by us for there to be one of the factors in the results would be that there would be a reduction in overall permitting time periods. And I would just like to see that you have those contractual fees or those contractual services that are paid. I'd like to see some type of a report to show what that correlates to.
We have that data. We pulled that recently and submitted a report. And if you didn't get copied on that, I apologize. That was an oversight. I'll get you that. I will say that I think we've only had 3 people take us up on the offer on that particular program. But I will also say, I'm very proud to say that we've gotten let's just take construction stormwater permitting by itself, because that is one that has, because of all the economic development activity going on in the state, that is arguably the heaviest workload that we have. And we've gotten our turnaround time on construction stormwater permit issuance. It was around 90 to 100 days 3 years ago. We're down to 30 to 45 days now. Now, a lot of that's use of contractors, but it's also us looking at process improvement. It's changing people's responsibilities around, changing job classifications. We downgraded one position to, won't get into much of the detail, but the point being that we have that data. I think we can show that we are, that our permitting backlogs have gone down. And my concern is not so much that, for the current status of the agency. I would love to be able to say that we're coming in here and asking for level funding. And that's essentially what we are asking for, a modest increase, but essentially level funding. Because we are getting the job done. I believe we are getting it done, and I think we're doing it well. What's it going to look like 10 years from now if we don't stop the bleeding in terms of retention? And I know that money not going to solve all of that. And I will acknowledge, and I'm glad you reminded me to say that y'all have been very generous to DEQ over the last several years, and I very much appreciate that. And I feel like we are making the most use of those resources. We try to be the best stewards we can of those resources. And if I were in your shoes, I would be asking the same question: what am I getting for my investment? And I will risk whatever I'm risking to say the AWSs of the world, the XAIs of the world, the battery plants of the world, all these big economic development projects. I'm not saying that DEQ made them happen, but I am saying that we played a critical role in the speed to market that is so valuable to Bill Cork and MDA when they are recruiting businesses. And when the governor stands up at a press conference and says speed to market was a big factor in a company deciding to locate in Mississippi, DEQ is part of that speed to market. And we're very proud of that.
That is exactly what is necessary at all levels, not just the home runs that are coming in at MDA. All right, so we'll say this, the chairman and I will probably need to sit down and talk about some other things, but real quick, I know that there are going to be other questions of the committee or from the committee. Chairman Sparks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Very briefly, if you had the ability to have return to work, to hire some people that retired out of DEQ, would you be able to possibly fill some of these pins if you had the ability to negotiate up to 80% or so of their salary, bring them back, not impact their retirement, and maybe let them do some of these things we're contracting out?
Great question, and the short answer is I think absolutely. In fact, we've had, I've got one with me today, a retiree we have a great alumni club out there, so to speak, and I think there's a number of them that would be glad to help out.
But this would be different and more an opportunity, but
Absolutely.
I'm proud to hear that. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Senator McClendon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've got a case in DeSoto where a family has built a home on a contaminated site.
Okay.
What do we do for those families as an agency? Is that a county issue? Is it the agency issue? If it is the agency issue, monetarily, and where does that fall in the budget?
So it doesn't, from a financial
Yes,
standpoint.
yes.
So our role in that, and it's a great question, our role in that is to work to determine who the responsible party is and to make sure that that responsible party cleans up. If there's not a responsible party, there are mechanisms like Superfund at the federal level that might be available. And be glad to talk with you offline about the details of that particular situation.
You do know about this?
I'm not recalling it, but that doesn't mean I haven't heard of it. Just off the top of my head, I'm not recalling it. I'm sorry.
Any other questions from the committee? All right, go ahead and consider this hearing closed. Thank you very much, Director Wells. Appreciate you and your staff. Keep up the good work. Look forward to working with you.
I'm sorry. Byhalia, isn't it? Byhalia? We're working with EPA on that. Yes, sir. I was drawing a blank there for a second, but. No, but that's Byhalia, and there, that is a concern. We've been working with EPA on.
Still doing okay? Good. How about you? Yeah. They're doing good. They were over Kevin and Laura's house last night. I try to work late. Yeah, I'm cool. Hey, nice to meet you. Yeah, I try to work late, like one day a week. They usually go over there. Hang out. Yes, yes, they are. Oh, for sure. Best in-laws, without a doubt. Public Service Commission?
No, MEMA.
Huh?
We're MEMA now.
No, okay, so somebody, land is. The best of the reason is.
How are you? How about you? Good.
It's Lewisburg water.
Thank you. Yeah, we won't take full 30.
Just give me, we're supposed to have it to 3 hours. Sorry.
That's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
Just give us a little bit of time to finish this.
Okay, we're good. Y'all know, are we still muted? Are we muted over YouTube? Y'all know.
All right. We don't have those problems on the coast.
It
snowed more down there last year than it did here.
Yeah,
You remember it snowed more down there?
we didn't have any problems with it last year. I don't know.
Yeah.
This year.
So a little bit behind today and apologize to for this delay and for the public. We're going to go ahead and open this appropriations hearing up. It's 2:40. We have until about 3 o'clock. I'd like to you, Crystal, to present to us today. Thank you very much. Go ahead and I'll give you the floor.
Thank y'all for having us. Crystal Thompson with MEMA. With me, I've got Morgan Middleton as our general counsel and Todd DeMuth as our deputy director. Thank y'all for having us and taking time to listen to us. One thing I want to start off with, in your packets, you have a bunch of information in your packets, but one sheet I will be using to go over will be this one pager. Looks like this. I'll be referencing back to this. It's kind of a summary of some of our requests. So if y'all want to pull that out, we'll go over that. One thing our agency, I think our agency does a good job of is maximizing the federal dollar. Over the years, our agency has gotten to where approximately 62% of our agency's operating expenses come from federal dollars. What we have found recently is some of those dollars are being pulled back. One main grant that we are looking at being pulled back is the Emergency Management Performance Grant, and you'll see that on the right side. The left side of your one pager right there. That is one that we use to operate off of. It's one that we use to pay bills off of. The LBR recommends a small cut to our general funds. We respectfully request that we not get that cut, but that we get an increase of $1.3 million to our general funds. That would not be as a plus up to our agency. That is strictly to keep us at level funding. What it would actually do would be shifting money from the federal funds bucket under general funds. We normally would have already seen a NOFO from the federal level for one of our grants, and we have not. And that is what is concerning to us. So that's what we're asking for the increase for on that. Additionally, LBR does not include a deposit to the disaster trust fund. We typically spend approximately between $7 and $8 million a year out of the disaster trust fund. That is used to match state matching on recovery payments. It's used to respond to weather events, any type of events. So we are requesting a deposit to the disaster trust fund, anywhere between $7 and $8 million. In the middle of your sheet, you will see the public assistance threshold. In your packet is also legislation to drop the state individual assistance and public assistance plan. That is something that we are introducing this year. We are expecting that FEMA increase the state's threshold. Currently, our state threshold for public assistance is 5.5 million. We are looking at that being increased to 22 million. If that does get increased, which we are expecting it to happen, there will be a huge gap between what MEMA can do to assist the citizens in the state. At this point in time, our authority only allows us to assist up to $250,000 through our disaster assistance repair program. That's all we can give to a county. Between that and the 5.5 million that is declared from the federal level. If it goes up to 22 million, obviously there's going to be a huge gap there. So what this legislation does is it just primarily provides an avenue so that we can, have a plan to assist the state and local governments in recovery. One thing we have done is over the years, you will see out of the 28 declared disasters, and this is in your packet as well, 18 of our 28 declared disasters would not have qualified under the 22 million threshold. What that adds up to is a total loss of federal dollars to the state of $162,804,920. So what we are doing with that legislation is simply just a preparation mechanism. It puts something in place so that if, the legislature has to come back into session to fund it, we have a plan in place to where we can assist the locals. Morgan, do you want to mention anything on that as far as legislation?
Yes, so the legislation dealing with this state fund it has the red paperclip. And so essentially what that is doing is just establishing the fund for, however you wish to fund it. And it provides different authorities that are necessary for us to be able to promulgate the rules and regulations regarding the public assistance and individual assistance plans.
Okay, aside from that, on the pager, we have some deficit requests. We have a deficit request this year that we are requesting for $1,315,100. That is to our agency just to keep us whole. With the Emergency Management Performance Grant, when we submitted the budget in August, we had applied for the grant, been awarded the grant. And after we were awarded the grant, amendments came down. We met the requirements of the amendments. The grants, basically, the money got frozen, tied up in in the court system, and the funds are still frozen. They may be released later on down the line. However, at this point in time, I hate to say it, but it's not doing anything for my cash flow. This deficit request, $1.3 million to our agency, that keeps us running, just keeps us to the end of the fiscal year. At this point in time, there is no traction in the court system right now with it, correct?
No, there's not. They haven't appealed it yet, but right now it seems to be that likely the federal government will appeal that determination by the court, that the courts told them to release the funds, but they are not doing so at this time.
In addition to that, that not only hurts our agency, but it also hurts the counties. That total grant, the total money that comes from the federal level, you'll see on the pager, we pass that through to the counties. So of what comes from the federal level, 1.365 is what MEMA keeps, and 2.672 and some change goes to the counties. Now, in your packet is a listing of all the counties and how much each county gets. You'll see that included in your packet. What we are requesting as a deficit on behalf of the counties, we are asking for a deficit request to pay them out. This hurt them as well. And so we are asking for a deficit on their behalf to pay them out. They use this money to run their EOCs, to pay their EMAs. They need this money. We have, we've told them that we are requesting the money from the legislature. We have also communicated that this would not be something that we would do every year, that obviously this would be a one-time request, and to prepare for it going forward, just as we are preparing and asking for a, general funds increase for next year. But I can, attest that this is something that the counties need. It would be very helpful for that deficit request for them. So you will see a deficit request coming from us for the $2.6 million to pay back to the counties. The last thing I want to address is from the federal level as well, we have seen pullback on the mitigation side. I want to let our Deputy Director Todd DeMuth address that because he has more in depth on that.
Okay, good afternoon. I appreciate you having me here. I understand that we are under a time crunch, so I'll make this as quick as possible. So the concern we have with the reduction and uncertain climate within the FEMA world, so to speak, is specifically our state or our mitigation program. As y'all are all aware, mitigation helps us to avoid repetitive loss in future disasters, the raising of homes, the widening of infrastructure, things of that nature. The biggest part of it is our flood insurance, National Flood Insurance Program. Our concern is right now, that fund is managed through FEMA's CAP SSE grant. That's the Community Assistance Program, state support service element, pardon me. Anyway, that grant gives us authority to enforce NFIP standards and guidelines. If that was to go away, that grant was to go away, currently the state of Mississippi does not have a statutory authority to enforce that. We have right now 335 communities that we service with a staff of 5. 28 of those communities participate in a community rating system, which is a voluntary incentive program for communities to go above and beyond, for lack of a better term, the requirements of the floodplain requirements in that area. By virtue of that, they get a discounted flood insurance rate. We're concerned that that would go away as well, thus potentially increasing insurance premiums specifically for those that live in our flood prone areas of the state. So that's the highlight. Obviously, the concern that goes along with that is the mechanism to provide guidance and certainly training to assist these communities get what they need so that they can comply and in some cases exceed the NFIP standards.
Hold on one second, if you would, Senator McClendon. Do you have anything else that you'd like to say right at this moment? So then I will go ahead and open it up. Senator McClendon, your question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When you say communities, could you give us an idea, approximate population? Are we talking a community of HOA? Are we talking community of hamlet? Are we talking town, city? Are we talking a coastline?
Right. Apologies for not clarifying that on the front end. So these, when we speak communities in our world, we're talking municipalities and or counties, but mainly these are going to be cities and towns throughout the state.
So approximate population of these 28.
I would
put together.
I would say just off the top of my head that you're talking about at least 1.5 million Mississippians that could be affected by, in one way or another, by this through those 335 communities. That's an estimation. That would have to, I'm happy to provide that specific number, but that's not one I have off the top of my head right now.
Yeah. I mean, of course, we're familiar with the community rating scale and how that impacts NFIP and the community's rating and the ability to get NFIP in communities where they do not have a robust plan for monitoring and making sure that there are not impacts within the floodplain. And that's something we're going to have to work through and understand that. Mr. Chairman, this is conversation regarding MEMA and some of the changes that have occurred on the federal side that are going to impact local communities. And the Emergency Management Performance Grant Program is something that the feds have provided for years to largely counties to be able to operate their EMA areas, provides baseline funding for salaries, their daily operations. And if I summarize this correct, if I don't summarize it correctly, let me know. But basically, FEMA's cut that off. So now they're looking back on us to. Good. Okay. Yeah. So there's a deficit request that's been presented that will help make our counties whole. the county side as well as on the MEMA side, and we'll work through that, and I'll continue to work with you on that. With respect to how we do going forward, I mean, this weekend, we're going to find out what's getting ready to happen.
Sure.
I don't know what the message has been to the locals, but there should definitely be message sent that while we want to help the state level, they should be able to, they need to go ahead and minimize their impact or minimize the losses as much as possible and take whatever
Agreed.
measures that are necessary for response and recovery side.
Agreed. That has been what we've communicated to them. We have told them, that we will come and request on their behalf a deficit for this year, as we were all somewhat blindsided by that. However, going forward, this would not be something where we would repeat. But, as far as our agency is concerned, the shift as far as the 1.3 million, that is our request. So like I said, again, that is not a plus up for our agency. It's simply a shift from the federal fund to a general fund.
Right. And there will be some other things that I need to through with you as we move forward with that. With respect to the components of the budget, are there any other questions? Senator Barnett.
Thank you. I was looking for Mac.
So Director McCraney, I didn't announce this, he is currently out on medical leave. He had surgery and will be back in a couple weeks. So sorry, unfortunately, you have us right now.
No problem. But he and I have been talking about some type of relief to help the service along it, because when we have like the tornadoes and things that come through, there's limited amount that you all can do because the funding is not available to take care of that. And so I just want to know, has he spoken with you all in regards to there being a fee added to power meters in the state, like we do, like for 911 service, there's a percentage of that we pay to support 911 systems and things like that. So we was talking about maybe a dollar amount added to each power meter, not commercial, but residential, and maybe a $2 amount added to every commercial customer per month on their power bill too, so that when areas, and so it wouldn't matter which area of the state is hit with a tornado or something devastating like that, then there could be some more monies available on the state side because there's not a whole lot of help from the federal side. Just ask.
Yes, I'm going to let Morgan answer that for you.
Yes, well, if you look at the red paperclip, that is the legislation that is being dropped this year for us that would create the state-managed disaster recovery program, but that would be the trust fund is created within that. And we've looked at many different areas of funding for that. While there's been discussion about putting in a lump sum to begin, but then to either do an assessment or provide for those fundings to go through an investment account, which is similar to what we've done with our Mississippi Emergency Communications Authority. That's within that statute as well. So yes, we are open to all ideas around funding, but we're starting with the framework that is in that bill.
So that's what that bill does. It actually just says it.
Yeah, and I'll just say this. We're getting ready to see a significant shift push down from federal to the state, and commensurately would expect the state's going to have to push down to locals. And does that, I think that you're going to see that we're going to have to, the locals understand that they're going to either have to reach out and educate themselves on some of these issues, but they're also going to have to rely on outsourcing some of these functions and some of these services at the local level. As we work through, as we get additional guidance from the feds, which we are expecting in the next 2 weeks, that we'll have a better picture of what it looks like. I know that there are plenty of code sections open right now to do what we need to do to make sure that we can go back home and say that we've done everything that we can, given the very limited amount of information that we have available to us. We certainly don't have any regs from the feds on how they're going to implement anything in the future, and I don't think we'll have that before the end of the session, but we're going to certainly understand the need for us to be able to have that the code sections open to do what we need to do to try to protect Mississippi as much as we can.
One more quick.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this will be $1 per meter for residential, correct?
That,
That's
that's not part of the bill. The bill itself just creates the structure for the fund. How you choose, how it is funded has not been determined. This is simply a framework.
I got you.
correct. That legislation is simply just sets up a core for us to be able to, have an avenue to fund it in the future.
So if you have a populous county that is, say, high income, and they would pay whatever we're doing, but yet, and most of those houses are insured, but yet they have a ding on them when it comes time to paying out money, because there's a threshold that says you got this many insured, so we're not going to be able to pay you that amount of money, even though insurance doesn't pay for cleanup, as we know, other than $500.
Yes, sir. So those are things that can be worked out in that information is not necessarily in the legislation at this point in time. Those are things that would be worked out in the policy that would govern how it's all run. The intent was really to just get something in place so that, if we are expecting the threshold to go to 20 million, 22 million. We have pretty much all but been told that.
Right. I just wanted that on the table.
No, I can understand. And those are things that we would be working out with the policy underneath it. So those are things that, we would, sit down with lawmakers or whoever to help us draft the policy that would govern it underneath that.
Thank you so much.
I think what you're referring to is a little bit different. Remember, we've got public assistance and individual assistance.
Right.
And what we're really focused on primarily is the public assistance side. And that's what we need to do to protect for core functions of government. On the individual assistance, that's something that is that we'll have to work through to come up with policy guidelines on how we approach that and what can we support. And it's something that we're months away from figuring that part out.
Well, I know our county up in DeSoto and Madison and some of the others have to meet a higher threshold because of no matter if it's a county deal or if it's an individual deal, correct? And how many people are insured?
For individual assistance.
All right, any other questions, Mr. Chairman? Anything right now? Mr. Vice Chair? Anything else? All right, well, go ahead and consider this committee hearing closed. Thank you very much. Appreciate your presenting to us today.
Thank you.
call this subcommittee hearing open. Just for time sake, just know that we are running about 7 minutes behind. We have a total of 15 minutes, so it sounds like you're just going to introduce yourselves. But I would like to go ahead and turn it over to this hearing on the Public Service Commission. Welcome all 3 of you here. Appreciate y'all coming and speaking before us today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and members of the committee. It's always different for Mr. Stamps and I to be on this side of the table, so take it easy on us. Nope. Okay. Thank y'all for your time. Obviously, we support everything that y'all are doing, and obviously what the legislature has done over the last 4 or 5 years has been extremely beneficial to the state of Mississippi. Everything's growing from the coast to the central to the north, and so as we have economic growth, you have people moving in, you have people houses, economic development with manufacturing, and all of those need electricity, water, sewer, natural gas. So as we embark to do our duty to make sure that those essential services are provided in a prudent and reasonable manner, the budget's very, very important so we can fulfill the task that we're that we're tasked to do. On this, you'll see that we do have a request for two additional things that will help us do our job a little better. One is our natural gas pipeline safety division. And so the natural gas safety pipeline division, that's a very important job to go out and to make sure that the system integrity is there, and to go out and research different incidences like happened here in Jackson, and also what happened in Tupelo. So our team responds, boots on the ground. We're the first ones there to try to evaluate the situation and kind of determine what happened and how to keep that from happening again. So Caleb over there does a great job, but it's very difficult to hire people that have the expertise that we need for that job. So we are asking for $148,293 increase in salaries in one position. The salaries basically is that natural gas pipeline safety manager. The other one is the Southern District has requested to have somebody, an inspector, to go out and actually make sure that the capital improvements that are being added to the rate base are actually being done. So he has requested that in his budget to try to make sure that all the budgets and all the rates are based on a formula. So all the data goes in and it spits out a rate at the end. We want to make sure that we're doing our job and make sure that those additions are prudent, so that there's capital investments that are being added to the rate base. We want to have a mechanism or way to verify that those capital investments were made before they go into the rate base. We have found on a few occasions that things have went into the rate base that were not completed. And so we're trying to verify to make sure those things are prudent and completed before they go, and the utility charges the customer themselves. So again, we're trying to do our due diligence to make sure that the utility and the ratepayer are operating the way they should, and the ratepayer is getting the service that they deserve. I'll turn it over to Commissioner Stamps to make a few statements, and then Commissioner Carr.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I appreciate the opportunity to speak before you today. The public utilities of Mississippi are Mississippi's #1 asset, and we're surging ahead to become Mississippi's #1 economy in this state. And we need the regulatory ability and the resources necessary to effectively regulate, maintain, and ensure that the systems are maintained appropriately. Thank you very much.
Got 3 minutes left. How you doing?
There you go.
Yeah, thank y'all for having us today. Appreciate what y'all do. It seems like that I'm the outsider here in this group. My colleagues have been here before. It's what we found out in the Southern District, for the pin that we're asking for, is Chairman Brown said, they put into they tell us they do something, and then we go back and they haven't done it. For example, we found 4 systems so far that has asked for a certificate, but they have not come back for the tariff. And that's troubling. I have 1 or 2 of them in Lamar County right now that I'm struggling to get done because I have someone that wants a system, but into issues of this person taking them over. He wants, we're having a problem, have a tariff now. They're not paying for a water and sewer bill. A sewer bill, I'm sorry. So it's troubling that this being a contractor is that when I want to draw, as y'all well know, you call the bank and the bank sends an inspector out. We don't have that. The utility staff doesn't have that. So we can't confirm that the work has been done. And we need someone that specializes in that to look at that, to make sure what they have on paper is what's in the field. And then that can be added back into the tariff. That's our biggest thing that we're going through in the Southern District. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'll add to what Commissioner Carter is saying. We have found out that by default, people call and start complaining about sewer and other things like in Saltillo, Guntown area. People started complaining about raw sewage in the street. So we started calling to see if we could address that issue. We couldn't find the owner. It had been derelict for 5 years. Nobody was overseeing the sewer system. It was literally on autopilot for 4 years, and it ended up running into the street before anybody knew what was going on. So that is kind of what we're trying to get our arms around, is that as we seek to serve the people better, the first 2 names and public service. And so we take that very seriously. So as we're going through the process to serve the people, how do we make sure that those systems are being operated? How do we make sure that the tariff is being met? How do we make sure that those services are being delivered the way they should? And we're doing everything we can to try to adjust to those demands and those needs because our state is growing. And as the state grows, those needs will get greater.
All right, I'm going to make a statement here in a second, but are there any other questions from members of the committee, Mr. Chairman? Anything? So this is my first time this year budget. Ask you to give me a little bit to spend some additional time with me walking through different components of this budget. There are some things that I'm trying to reconcile here that will probably be best served but particularly understanding the breakdown of the pins, how your pins are categorized, if you do them by each individual district, or if it's just an overall. But I would like to see that at some point in time. We don't need to do that at this moment, but understand that we're showing that LBR was reduced by 185. That looks like that was a salary. Then there was a request for 140. There's some other requests that are in here. I need to reconcile those to understand if those pins are coming off and if we're asking for a new pin. And you've got 9 vacancies that you're asking to be added for LBR.
No, sir. We have 9 vacancies currently. 5 of them are being advertised. The others were recently vacated and are in the process of getting ready to be advertised. We are only asking for 1 additional pin, and that is the Southern District pin Commissioner Carr spoke about. Well, it will be located in the Southern District. They aren't technically split by district, but that'll be housed in South Mississippi.
Just try to understand how that flows and make sure that I can reconcile the pins that are being cut out of LBR and then what's being requested to be added back. And if there's a new pin on top of that, that's something I need to understand as well. Thank you.
And if you have any questions that you have after this, please get them to us and we'll make sure you have answers to all of them.
Thank you.
And last thing we would request is, I know it's a sticky topic, but we'd love to be returned to a special funds agency.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
So, denied. That's right. Just gotta keep it at the forefront, Mr. Chairman.
And Mr. Chairman, several of our districts have different unique. In my district, we're pushing economic development. I brought aboard former Rankin County Supervisor Jerry Morrison. He didn't work all the time in the office. He's out in the field working with supervisors, help bridge the gap to grow the economy of the central district. He has more abandoned sewer and water systems than I do. So we use our personnel based on the needs of our districts and trying to grow our economy. This utility system of this state is this state's #1 asset. We produced more economy last year than any other industry. So moving us back to what we were designed to be in the first place will help move our economy forward. And you can track when from a special funds district funding, systems started to fail and you end up having a great river coming in and buy systems. If we don't take a serious look at the investments that are necessary to maintain this system, systems and sewer systems at the local level will raise their rates because they cannot depend on us to provide the services that we're designed to provide. So the cutting of our budget is not the most prudent thing if you want to stabilize the #1 asset and the #1 economic driver in this state.
Commissioner, I appreciate your comment. I certainly understand that, and I look forward to working with you and the other commissioners as we move forward with this. Senator Sparks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Local water systems, there's something I think that I would like to know anytime you bring a local water system forward, and that's if they actually applied successfully for the ARPA grants, because we hear a lot from water associations who, yeah, they have a need and they're self-funded through rates. But, I have a little bit of an issue with whether it's a unit of government or a water system that had availability to millions of dollars of assistance who didn't take advantage of that, who now then have some issue. And the other thing, and you can answer this offline, what authority, if any, do you have or anyone have from a financial fine or clawback situation where someone is not doing what they're supposed to be doing as far as raw sewage? Because, I realize you won't be a special fund agency, but whatever we're paying for, or you're asking the state to pay for, we need to make sure these people, if they're financially responsible, are being held accountable.
And I'll try to, over to answer the question, both. I know under time, but there's very little oversight we have. Fortunately, especially if you get to elect your board members on any water sewer system, we really have no oversight. So what we can do is very limited. I appreciate what you're asking, and I think it needs that if they got millions of dollars, we need to make sure that those dollars were spent on upgrading the system and that it made it better, because those are still taxpayer dollars. And so we would be good stewards of that money too.
Mr. Chairman, you have a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Commissioner, the request for 81,793, which is an increase for title changes to pipeline safety investigators, to compliance inspectors. How many people is that, and what is the difference in what they're doing that would constitute that need for 81,000, almost $82,000?
The biggest thing is to be able to attract the talent that we need. And it's really not the title, it's really mostly the funds to try to get that personnel to take that job. We've had a hard time filling that position. It's 8. Yeah, there's 8 total. Yeah.
Our resources come from the utilities we regulate, not necessarily directly. They're taxpayers, but they're ratepayers through a system, whether it be an investor on utility. So.
All right, any other questions from members of the committee? Anything else, commissioners? Thank you very much. Appreciate your service to our state.
Thank you all so much. And any questions that you have, just get them to us and we'll answer any that you have offline. Thank you all.
Thank you for the hard work you do.
Thank you. Oh, good. You all right? See ya.
Senators, I'm going to go ahead into the public utilities staff. We have Jeff Lee that's presenting on behalf of the staff today. Deputy Director Lee, we have about, well, why do they give you 30 minutes? We got about 25 minutes for you here today. So if you would give us what's going on, give us some details on your request and give us about 5 to 7 minutes to ask questions afterwards, if you don't mind. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Senator. I have about 10 copies of a little narrative here. I'm not sure how many we need. You guys are welcome to those. They reflect pretty much what you've seen in the budget request forms. But thank you for your time. Director Beckett sends his regrets. He's not able to be here today. There are 10 copies. That's all the same. And it's just a little one pager if it's helpful. If you need some more copies.
Thank you.
Yes. And so give them just a moment. I might have brought enough. Again, thank you all. The easiest place to start is with our requests for travel, contractual, and commodities. That's unchanged. For the second year in a row, we're just asking for level funding there. You granted it to us last year, and it was, you know, it was what we needed. We use a lot of the travel, obviously, for training. And we're a very specialized industry that we regulate. It does require a lot of training. And so we use that for off-site training for our employees. That's important that we maintain that, but we're not asking for an increase, just level funding there. We are asking for an increase in salary, but the budget request form, it needs a little clarification. You'll see the requested increase to salary and fringe is about 191,000. Here's a little more detail on that. First, when we submitted the proposal this summer, we included 100,000 that was cut from our level funding request last year. So we were asking for restoration of that. Since then, obviously, we've seen LBO's recommendation for this coming fiscal year. We're recommending cutting another 90,000. But we understand that that's, you know, just like last year's recommendation or last year's cut, that's tied to these vacant positions. Some good news on that front. For the first time since we took over PUS, we're ending a calendar year with more employees than the prior year. So we've hired a lot of people in the past 3 years, but we've had a lot of people leave, some through retirement, some for private sector jobs. But we've kind of stabilized that. We managed to keep some good people, and we're starting to get those people trained. So although we continue to recruit for open positions, this salary request is really more about retention than it is for new positions, like hiring at a higher, you know, toward the median or whatever. It really is more focused on we put together a good team and we're trying to keep them. The public utilities regulation is a very specialized form of audit and accounting. And there's really like this 3 to 5 year on ramp for employees to be real contributors, to really understand the nature of these complex filings that we deal with year in, year out. Take, for instance, someone like Entergy. They make a major filing in the spring. A new employee sees that little bits of it, and then they move on to something else, and it's a year before they see it again. But the second year, they remember a little more, the third year, so on and so forth. So we've got several that have gone through some rigorous training. They've had a lot of experience. They're hitting that 3-year threshold, and we really want to, you know, be able to retain those employees. So 71,000 of that 171 is really about
we want the discretion to increase the employees that we have. So obviously the special session last summer, we came out of it with a directive that you couldn't give anybody an increase. And so this year in our budget request, we're asking specifically for those. I'm so sorry that the term that we use every day, it just escapes me, but I've got him on notes, salary progressions. So we've identified some employees and we're asking for this additional salary and fringe so that we can do those salary progressions and retain these employees that we've already got trained and experienced. So to be clear though, and consistent with what we said in our similar meeting with the House, we're proposing to withdraw this 100,000 restoration that we asked for that's tied to those vacant pens. Knowing LBO's recommendation is for 90,000 more to be cut, what we're asking is cut 18 of that and leave us that 71 and change so that we can do these salary progressions and the fringe that goes along with it. That's about 3% of the total salary budget is what that's reflective of. We're not looking to do an across the board 3% increase, but there are some that might require a little bit more, and we just want to have that ability to get some of those key employees closer to that median and, you know, have something to fight with if they're about to leave for an offer in the private sector.
And when you say closer to that meeting, you're talking about the SPB, SBR, SBRB.
SPB.
Yeah, the recommendations are.
Yes,
Okay, as far as this one to make sure.
Yeah.
So if you would, where vacancies do you have right now?
We're at 4 now. We're a small agency. We're approved for 24 and we're at 20.
Okay. This is my first time handling your budget. I've got, I need to get my head wrapped around this. So at some point in time, either you or the executive director need to spend some time with y'all and understand that.
Absolutely.
So if you would, let me know what you're thinking as far as your promotions go. I don't need to know names, but I just understand what that pen looks like. And we're just going to be proposing to give the enhancements to. Are there any other questions of the committee? Or anything? If I cut you off, if you have anything else, let me know, but.
No, that's it. I think with just a little bit more time, it's probably helpful to the members to know that when we say it's a specialized form of audit and accounting, you only learn it in one of two places, working for us or working for the utilities. And a lot of time what happens is once someone gets some experience working for us, they're more attractive to the utilities. Now there's some of these salary gaps we can't combat and never will be able to, but we've managed over the past 3 years to sort of determine a type of person that we're looking for, and that's who we're trying to hire now. But we're also, you know, these that are coming in, and I'll call them stars because I talked about that 3 to 5 year curve. You know, that person determines whether it's going to be 3 years or 5 years. And lately we've hired some that are going to get there in 3 years instead of 5. That's how complex it is. I'm not just, you know, putting that in there, but because of that, we want to be able to keep them satisfied. And they came to state government for a lot of reasons other than money, but money is still part of everybody's decision on whether they stay. And we just, we appreciate your support in making that happen. The utility space is obviously exploding in Mississippi. The only caveat to these numbers is the only thing that could really change our salary demands would be a big deal. And that would be just sort of a ramp up in the water and sewer space that we regulate. You know, right now we don't regulate water associations. We don't regulate municipals, except for a little bit that's outside a 1 mile radius of the city. So if there was any change legislatively in giving more responsibility to the Public Service Commission, regulatory authority over water and sewer, that may implicate changes on our part. That would be additional staff. That might be, you know, coming back in asking for more funding. But we don't anticipate that this year. You guys know that better than us.
That's all I have.
Great. Well, thank you, sir. Again, any other questions? Anybody? All right, I'll go ahead and consider this hearing closed. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Mr. Lee, appreciate you.
Shoot you an email, look for a time.
Well, I recognize that we are starting a little bit early, which is rare at this hour in the afternoon for us to get going a little early. Go ahead and open this subcommittee hearing for the Department of Corrections. We generally take about 30 minutes for these hearings, and I would anticipate that we would need probably 10 to 15 minutes of questions from members. So we'll do a high-level overview. Mr. Commissioner, we'll go through this. I'll let you do your presentation, and then we'll go through some questions, and then I'm sure that there's going to be additional follow-up that we'll have afterwards. But at this time, I'd like to recognize Commissioner Kane for your presentation. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so very much. It's an honor to be here with you today, and we appreciate the support we've had in past years. And I'll be brief as I possibly can. I'm going to give you a little bit of information, though, that we think is really pertinent. First is to talk a little bit about cost savings. And we have saved a total of $19 million by having 273 inmate teachers. We have 44 free world teachers, but those 273 inmate teachers are saving us that much money had we had to hire those if we could have found them. Certificates awarded for skills and trade and graduations is 3,914 so far. And another saving, to give you an idea, is this, where we put these QR codes on all our cell doors, everywhere we had a cell, and then we have to go by every 30 minutes and they have to scan this code, and that ensures that the rounds were made so that if we have any kind of incident, this helps us with lawsuits and so forth, plus provides guaranteed public safety that we went by the cell door every 30 minutes. This would have cost us about $100,000 per prison to do this. We got this done for $5,440 because we did it ourselves with our own technology and our own people rather than go to the contractor. Also, perimeter cameras. When I came here, we had no cameras except some at Parchment on the fence. Now we have cameras on all our fences, and the cameras scan if anything is thrown over the fence and so forth, they're going to pick it up and they're going to show it. And just yesterday, this guy here brought this much contraband to the fence at Parchment. But what's really good is I have the picture of it because we have it and they don't have it because of the cameras and so forth that detected this coming on board. So we've cut back drastically the contraband in our prisons, which make it much safer. I'm kind of hurrying along, so let's talk about staffing a little bit. So fiscal year 23, we had 920 staff, this security staff, 24, 1,133, 25, 1,140, and 26, 1,221. So we're slowly getting where we need to be. We need to have at least 1,500 to be compliant. So we're moving that direction. Let's talk about college partnerships. Mississippi Delta Community College, we have 58 students there. They're coming to our prison. Southwest Community College, 48. Mississippi Valley, 63. Mississippi Gulf Coast, 97. The point is, we partner with all our community colleges so that they can be part of our program, and so they're involved, and it helps us with our schools and saves money again. New Orleans Baptist Theological Seminary has 105 and Hinds County, 38. Let's talk about security threat groups. Security threat groups mean it's a threat to our security. So everybody that was in a gang, we don't even want to use that word anymore, is wearing red clothes. They're maximum security because they're a threat group. With that being said, our population today is 461 that would be former gang members. 5 years ago, we had 6,500. So that's depleted as far as having influence in our prison. They're not all gone, but they're primarily at Parchment, Walnut Grove, and Wilkerson. So the guy at Marshall could say, I don't have any gangs. If he does, that dude's going to be dressed in red, and he's going to Walnut Grove or one of these other prisons. So their problem, their threat has been diminished. On death row, there's 34 population. In death row now, there's 56 cells, so we have room to grow there. We now take inmates in from 3 different facilities, Parchment, CMCF, and SMCI. That is to save money with transportation because you don't want to have to drive from DeSoto County all the way to CMCF like they used to do. We don't have to drive all the way from the coast all the way up to CMCF. They go to SMCI. So that's saving a lot of money in transportation. There is absolutely no backlog with sheriffs. If a sheriff wants to bring an inmate to us, bring him. We don't care what day, whenever. He can bring him. So we have no backlog. Problem is they kind of hold some on us because we have to pay that $31 a day, so they like having them. So we have to go out and round them up sometimes so we don't have to pay for that. But we realize that, so we're doing that. We have 68 people that are watching cameras 24 hours a day. There's a camera battery in our building where we can see all the prisons, all the time, all the dormitories. Every prison has its own too. Starting pay for CSOs was $27,000. It's $40,392 now. So that's good. We took down the high mast lights at Delta, at Unit 32 at Parchment, and moved those to Delta. Saved a lot of money there because they didn't have enough lights on their fence. 32, as you know, is closed down. So we've been scavenging what was in it to help us and save money to other prisons. And so we're going to have the buildings at Delta finished by January. By September, we'll be able to start working with Milwaukee Tools, though part of it will be open. So that's really good. The other thing that's important is the Federal Bureau of Prisons have come to Parchment, and they have 6 prisons that they want to make like Parchment. Do the same programs we do and so forth. So it's pretty good when the Fed wants to be like us rather than make us be like them. So we're proud of that. Also, the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools, and I'm going to read what they said. That is the folks that accredit Ole Miss, Mississippi State, all our Southern colleges. And they conducted an inspection of Parchment for the MDOC campus. And they reported that Parchment was the best prison education site they had ever inspected, and that's all across the whole South. I went through this really fast because I know time is sensitive, and if there's any questions, I'd be glad to answer them because I just scanned through to go fast. Also, let's see, I have one other thing, the farm. We plan on farming right at 4,500 acres of soybeans this year, and that's working through MagCorp. MagCorp is a good partner for us. We work closely with them. They work closely for us. We have the labor force. And so then that's how the farm's going to work. We expect an average yield of 60 bushels an acre for soybeans, and that should bring in $2.3 million to the farm. So that's good. So that's pretty well how we are. Now, this is what we do. This is our whole plan. I'm going to hold this up. This is how it works. When you come into prison, intake, you go to one of those 3 prisons. Okay? Should have a bigger page here. But we have a line. We give you a test when you come in. It's called a TABE test, and it tells us if you're mechanically inclined. If you're mechanically inclined, you go to the bottom line. This is when you come in. You go to the bottom line. We've increased program people and so that we can have everybody see a program person or a case manager. Now, if you're not mechanically inclined, you go to the top line. So you're going to take soft skills. You're going to go to the colleges, community colleges, and so forth. But if you go in this bottom line, that's the number I read off at the beginning where we already have the skilled and trade. This is welding, this is skilled and trades. We focus big time on HVAC because a lot of jobs on HVAC. This is the South. It's easy to teach people. It's not a hard curriculum. And so it's a lot easier than mechanics. So we do that. It's electrical, welding, all the different skills. The biggest schools are at SMCI and at Parchment, but every prison has some of these schools. We have barber school. We have a cosmetology school for women. We have a nail school for women. Nail school and cosmetology takes 2,500 square foot facility. So we have that set up, and those, when we get on your cosmetology board, should both be open. They're ready to go. And the cosmetology school is open because it opened last year before the board was in demise. So as soon as y'all get a new board, then we'll be ready to open the nail school and another barber school. I think I've covered pretty much everything I had. One more thing, Vitacor. We have a contract with them, and we've increased our mental health capacity to 150 mental health clinicians for our whole department. That is gigantic compared to what's before. Because if you can't do these top 2 things on this line, if you don't do either one, you have mental health issues. And a lot of prisoners do have mental health issues. We need to deal with the mental health issues and also the addiction issues. That's why these drugs and things were coming into prison. Also earbuds, because they're trying to get earbuds because we're finding the cell phones now, and every 2 weeks we cut off all the cell phones. And the way we do that is we have a contract with a vendor we can record all the cell phones that's on that we don't want cut off. That'd be like mine and Derek's and all that. Don't cut these off. But if they pull up any cell phone, it's not the one you don't cut off, they kill the SIM card and the phone. Can't be reused. And so he handles this, John Hunt does. Every 2 weeks they do it. And we have a contract for that. We hope soon, though, we'll be able to jam the phones. When we can, we'll jam all the phones, including ours. We'll solve our problem because the phone is the worst thing we have. It's worse than a knife. It's the way they bring in all the drugs, plan escapes, everything to do, the cell phone. And all of us in the business know that. We pray that the government will go ahead and allow us to block the cell phones. You can in federal prisons, but you can't in state prisons yet. Hope it happens soon. That's all I have. Any questions? That's enough.
Well, I appreciate your presentation. It'd be helpful if we had a handout to be able to follow along with some of the information that you were providing, because I know that it's of interest to members of the committee. But we do have a significant amount of change in APR from your list as far as changes in with the estimate from this fiscal year. That being said, I don't know if you really ran through what your stars as far as changes from LBR.
Yeah, man, I didn't call on Derek. Derek got there and he's got a proposal too. I ran over him. Sorry, Derek, you can hit me.
Sure.
Thank you, Chairman, for the opportunity to go over our budget request for you. As you see, I provided you with a one-pager, real quick one-pager to show you the difference between what our progress was for fiscal year 2026 to fiscal year 2027. That request is $500,543,659. Of that request, general fund is right at $461 million. State support capital expense fund 8.5, and special funds at $30 million for a total change of $17 million from fiscal year 2026 to fiscal year 2025. What makes up that number is we got it in two parts. $7.4 million is for our operational budget. The other $10 million is for our contractual side budget. So for our operational budget, it consists of central office, community correction, and our 6 institutions. Of that baseline is right now, we're really asking for almost like a flatline funding, except for the increases in our food services, increases in our utilities. People understand the utilities, the CW Central Mississippi is $300,000. Electric bill is $100,000. So those increases there right now, you can see, is almost like 4%. We also ask for retention and salaries for our employees. And one of the other key increases we're asking for in this request, as you will see on our operation side of it, $3.2 million is for our probation. That's for our sworn law enforcement officers. We're trying to take their salaries from $34,000 to $41,000. We're losing a lot of people to staff to other people that pays way more for sworn law enforcement. Yeah, we want to continue to protect our communities. Our community correction people are directly in our communities to oversee everybody that's out in these streets on probation and parole. And that is one of the critical needs that we're requesting in this fiscal year budget. And the other one is $1.7 million for the staffing at Delta. As he mentioned earlier, we're going to bring online a building at Delta to house more women and to work in these programs in the Delta to help with the workforce in the Delta. That is the key request. The rest of it is pretty much frontline for clothing, utilities, things that goes into our everyday utilization of our inmates for the custody and care patrol. The contractual side of it, it's like I said, it's $10.1 million. Okay, that goes to our medical. It's going to $2 million this year. That's a 5-year contract. That increases automatically built into that contract. And the regional is another $2.3 million. I'm sure you passed for Forest County to have a regional, requesting the funding for that regional. There's just an open request for the funding if we're going to operate that regional. The other one is a private prison right now. Wilkerson is out for bid. We estimate that to come in with $2.2 million. That might go up or down, and once that due comes in through the final RFP process, we'll make that number known. And the rest is just a recommend change in local confinement of $746,000. So those are the breakdowns of our requests from fiscal year 2026 compared to fiscal year 2027 budget request. Chairman.
Okay. Things touch on real quick. Over the past 2 or 3 years, we have given either capital expense funds for some improvements that need to be made at certain facilities, specifically member doors and gates and electronics. And then I think that there was some upgrades. There was you mentioned the camera systems, but I believe that there were some other physical security features that were funded. And I wanted to know if you've expended all of those funds and if all of those improvements are online at this time.
Yes, sir. All those improvements are online. Those improvements are through buildings, all of those capital expense funds. So buildings are helping us with all those projects to keep those on task.
Okay. And if I remember correctly, the commissioner said something about the amount of operations generated. Did I get it?
I said for next year, what we had projected we were gonna have was the soybeans, but I didn't go through the other crop they were gonna raise.
Just a total, if you would, I mean, what do you think your projections are?
Our projections are, next year that we were gonna have, revenue of 3.5 million in rent payment as well as in soybean income, so we will be there. Number I have, Derek.
That's it.
So 3.5 million is what you think your revenue is going to be?
For revenue, 3.2.
But your operations are 4 million?
Yes, that includes salaries too.
So would you do me a favor and can you give me actual numbers from revenues that you've received over the past 3 or 4 years? Just give me a snapshot of look at that, and also the expenses, actual expenses from the farm operations, just to get that. And also understand that there's leases that you have for land that's out there, and just give me just an overview of what your lease revenue is, acreage, and just what size of your acreage over the operations as well. Appreciate that. I know I'll have some other questions, but I want to yield to my chairman of corrections, Mr. Barnett, Chairman Barnett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think you touched on one of my questions, and that was in regards to farming. I don't have it in front of me, but the last peer report that came out talked against or spoke against the farming operation at Parchment, and said that it was really a good thing to be working on right now because of a loss. That was in the peer report. Also, what was in the peer report was some deficiencies and deficits at Parchment as well. That was in the peer report, but I don't see any of those things being talked about, but we need to address those things. The other thing, Mr. Chairman, I've talked about it for as long as I've been here, but a lot lately in the last 6 years, and that is that I think this boat is outgrowing some of our other agencies in the state. I can remember when I came to the legislature, the budget at the Department of Correction was 323. And if we just round it up to 350 and it's over $500 million, that's 15 to 17 million dollars a year that we're asking the state, that we're asking the taxpayers to pay or to come up with every year in the Department of Corrections. I don't see where we're making a lot of efforts in making sure that the programs that we're offering, i.e. barbering, i.e. cosmetology, welding, or whatever the services are, we're having to pay those services, or we're having to pay for people to get the training to the facilities. That's an additional cost to what we've already having to spend the state taxpayers just to house individuals. So my question is, when is the state of Mississippi, when are the taxpayers in the state of Mississippi going to get a return on that kind of investment? And the return on investment could be done, but I have seen very little effort being done on that. But I have to commend my colleagues in the Senate and the governor's office for signing legislation to make this possible. But I find that it is becoming impossible because I don't see any movement from the Department of Corrections that could help alleviate some of those things. And I think that we can start to fix some of this or get a return on our investment if we would take advantage of some of the things that are out there that are on the books. We talk about funding regional jails, but unless my math is wrong, if we're paying $51 a day for Parchment and any of our state facilities to house an inmate, and if that said person is not in one of our state facilities, but is in one of our regional facilities, we're paying them $30 a day. My math may be wrong, but 31 and 51, there's a difference of $20. So how can we lose money if we're paying less to someone else to house the same person that we're going to be housing daily? Have we looked at the possibility of using some of our regional jails more so that doesn't cost us as much more? Have we encouraged our regional facilities because of the legislation that's being passed to encourage them to also use some of this work release legislation that's out there? And it's been 2-3 years now. Finally, we got some traction at the one up in Delta where Milwaukee Tools wants to come in and use these people that are formerly incarcerated. But I mean, I just feel like, we keep spending a whole lot of money on our Department of Corrections. And the taxpayers in the state of Mississippi are not getting a return on that investment that is costing us. I feel like I'm preaching to the choir here. And most of you all know that this has been something that has bothered me as long as I've been in the legislature. We can spend $31,000 a year to house one person, but we raise hell on the Senate floor. It's about spending $6,500 to educate one child. That's a problem. That's a problem when we should be trying to work to make sure that we can fix some of these problems. And again, I'm not saying that we open the doors up and let all of these inmates and let all of these people out on the streets. But I think we need to take advantage of things that's going to help the Department of Correction and not just keep doing things because it's been a tradition. If the farming operation at Parchment is costing us money, then we need to shift gears and find something else that's not going to cost us money.
Mr. Chairman,
that's my speech. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You and I have worked on some particular components of this in the past, and we've definitely added some additional inputs to the process, and duly noted some of the things that you've asked me about in the past, and I'm going to continue to work on that. And I'm going to ask for your assistance in helping us move through that. And as far as the commissioner, or to the commissioner, I think I can echo some of the things that he has said over time, where we have asked for areas where we can make some improvements, and we need to see some improvements over a period of time. Last budget session, if I remember correctly, and I see that it's been taken out of here, so I know that's been spent. We spent $14 million in technology for records management system for inmates. Part of the discussion about that, needing that, is to try to help decrease the workload, or maybe increase the efficiency of workload for it's in early release programs. we were anticipating seeing some decrease in cost associated with implementation of this plan, or maybe it's just more of an efficiency thing. But can you give me an update on where we are with the implementation of that? How has it gone? Is it fully online at this point? How does that increase or decrease the workload of officers that are in the field?
That system is not fully online yet. It hasn't been approved by ITS. So right now we're really working on seeing the final steps in the layout of when the implementation is going to be. We're still waiting on that from ITS.
Okay, and if I remember correctly, you have two systems. One that keeps track of everybody. It's the entire record systems for any person that comes into the system. And then there's another system that we had funded at some point in time, and I remember us continuing the creation for a number of years trying to get it online, but this was for the early release program for tracking. I remember there was some tracking component. There were also some things that were stated that would help officers be able to get updates and check in with these release people with that program.
We have the ankle monitor system. Yeah. So, you're talking about the ankle monitor system?
No, it wasn't an ankle monitor system. I'm reaching out to my chairman right now.
I don't know if it got across the finish line. I think I did it on the Senate side. It did.
Standard. For clarity, we was appropriated $6 million. There was a language in there for the ankle monitor system and technology towards that. That has been spent exactly on the ankle monitor system and tracking system. So
where was it spent?
Spent on the ankle monitoring system as it was said in the actual legislation bill.
Okay. And that has been implemented?
Yes, sir.
The 14 million is the overall.
Yes, sir.
Program that is for everyone that comes in.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So that 6 million that you're referring to.
Well, this almost cost the ankle monitoring system,
Okay. And how has that helped with work that the officers do in the field?
So now with that new system, the new company, they actually help go to the actual facility also. Instead of the actual paying people going to the facility and put the ankle monitors and all that stuff, they set up all that system for them. They get the inmate, put the system on, the register in the system. So that helps streamline them to get away from that admin side of the things to do that for them.
Okay, and then I'm going to switch back to the 14 million. When do you expect that to go?
I'm getting the time from ITS, and that should come this month. That 14 million needed to be we'll communicate.
Okay. I know there's some other questions. Senator Sparks, do you have any questions pop up? I mean, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Couple of quick things on what you were just asked. The ankle monitor system, that's not inside the facility. You're putting them on inside the facility, but I assume these are people that are being paroled or on probation?
Correct.
All right. So that helps our short staffing and parole and probation because we can actually track them. Is that fair?
Yes, sir.
Our problem staffing on parole and probation.
Right now, currently staffed at 270 with 106 vacancy.
All right. And that was the ask of 3.2 million to get entry level from 34 to 41,000. Is that correct?
Once you need entry level, you have to move everybody. So you want
wait just like answer the first question first.
Yes, sir.
Is that for entry level? Now we get into class 1, 2, 3 with degree, without degree. I'm going to be very interested how those pins have been distributed across the state, because every time I look at a map, it doesn't look like a map of Mississippi. It looks like there's an exorbitant amount of higher paid pins in certain regions of the state. And you've explained some of that to me, because Hinds County looks like they got an overload of people, but pins don't match the counties of which they're serving across the board. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. So in some scenario, and you've given me some information, but So asking for 3.2 million more dollars, we need to know if that's going to entry level. You believe under SEC squared, you have to bump everybody because you bump entry level.
Yes, sir.
Is that the 3.2 does all that?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Also, Senator Nathan Blevins met with you and not me.
I'm saying you have gotten me, excuse me, yes, yeah. Now, the $14 million computer system, I'm assuming, is that a replacement for offender track?
Yes, sir.
How long have you been working with ITS on this $14 million contract
And this will get appropriated in July.
of this year?
Yes.
So we're
Moving that work along pretty fast.
Um, is this the system that's going to try to help you actually accomplish presumptive parole?
I don't want to speak to not the knowledge. That system should help with everything because it's going to do with technical capabilities too.
But ultimately, the presumptive parole legislation was passed so that you wouldn't go through the parole process except on the front end. Somebody would come in, they're evaluated, all these things we're talking about at intake, they're given a plan. If they hit all the metrics of that plan, they were presumed to receive parole, which is exactly why you need $3.2 million for ankle monitors. It's also why you need $14 million for a computer system that does something other than carry a paper file over to parole. So is parole and probation going to be able to get into the system to see the information, to see if they've met the criteria, or are they going to have to input it into their system?
Want to speak to that?
Good afternoon. The presumptive parole has actually already started. We released our first 2 in November of 25. And so what we did.
First, how many?
First, it was 2 that was released in November. And I don't have the exact numbers on how many have been released since then, but we have been working diligently with Chairman Belt to develop a system that he wanted to be able to review the case plans and able to provide the information that he needed to start paroling inmates on.
So is this software we're spending money on, he's going to be able to use it, so there's no longer an excuse, because we passed presumptive parole in 2021 and you released 2 in 2025. That's the ROI that we're talking about. We're not getting the bang for, we're giving the money. We're spending the money. But as Chairman Barnett said, we're still spending $32,000 a year to house them because we hadn't, and it ain't a release. It's presumptive parole. The parole reviewed the plan on the front end if you do X, Y, and Z. So that carries me to the certificates awarded and all that. 3,914 certificates awarded means almost nothing to me except it's less than 4,000. If you don't tell us what those certificates are, if it's serve safe, I'm not real impressed. We need breakdowns on generating out of those certificates, because that's going to tell us the guy with the ankle monitor that actually got presumptive parole that we're not paying $31,000, $32,000 a year is gainfully employed. So that all ties together, and I get it. What about correctional officers staffing?
We up to 1,221 now. And we need to have at least 1,500, but we were at 1,140 last year.
Okay.
1,133 the year before. And also I'd like to mention that the regionals do not pay the medical, which is $16.50 per inmate per day. So that's one reason that the price differential is such, but it'd still be $6 more. We'd say we also running our regional at full capacity. So we're using every bed we have out there. We're not in a capacity problem though. So we still have beds, plenty of beds.
And on the regional question, I think it goes back to Chairman Barnett's question. First of all, the average daily rate is a joke. It is a hypothetical. Peter runs it. Now, the legislature told him how to run it, but that was based on the Holly Springs facility, 1,000 people hypothetically that were in there, and that's the number. That ain't your real number. Yeah, fully staffed. So I get that. But the regionals, as you pointed out, Commissioner, they can send back anybody and they don't keep sick people. So we pay $16 a day for people that don't even take an aspirin, but that's part of the Vital Corps contract. So moving to the Vital Corps contract, it looks like $110 million has been spent this year. 126 is requested under correctional medical services. That may not all be Vital Corps. You've got a built-in increase. If you spent $110 million this year, is that your gross payouts to them or net? Okay, we would like to see the gross and the net, because if we're clawing back like a contract says we're supposed to, that would be really exciting, I think, to this committee to see that we're holding them financially accountable.
To the chairman also.
Okay. Very briefly on the farming. It's $500,000. Sometimes we lose money on stuff because we think there's an intrinsic value or some other value. But the comment was you got 4 million in gross expenses for farming and you have 3.5 million in gross revenue, correct? All right. How much of that is lease revenue? Because that shouldn't be counted. When you lease farmland, there's no pen required. You got one lawyer got to draw a contract and you collect money. That's how I understand a lease works. So counting the lease revenue and the gross revenue is misleading on how much we're losing on farming.
Farm operation. The farm operation of fiscal year 25 was 1 million. The lease was 1.4. The total expenditures was 3.6.
All right, but if I back 1 point, would you say the lease was?
1 million. 1.4.
All right, so I back 1.4 out of 3.5, I get 2.1. And how much did we spend on farming?
2.6.
Okay, so it's a bigger loss than 500,000. It's $1 million plus.
Yes,
so
yes, sir.
does that include whatever tractors we're leasing and all that stuff?
Yes, sir.
All right, somebody making $1 because we're leasing a tractor, losing $1 million a year. I'd say that's something to be reviewed. And if you lease the land you're farming, the 1.4 number would go up and the cost would go away. Is that fair?
Yes, sir.
All right. No, I don't want to run the agency. I'm just saying that, math is math. The $2.3 million increase for, we call them private prisons. There's no such thing in the state of Mississippi. They all belong to the state of Mississippi. They're operated by a third-party vendor. All right. Is that the 2.3 increase? That's just contractual changes?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then what's the increase at the regionals? Is that bringing forest online?
Yes, sir.
Okay, because that's got a legislative cap on that rate.
Yes, sir.
All right, perfect. I'm trying to go fast just because I don't want to drag everybody out. Last thing, I guess the inmate welfare fund, and I'm new to appropriations, so I apologize. Sometimes these things look like hieroglyphics to me. Do we appropriate your spending authority, the specificity of what you spend out of the inmate welfare fund?
Yes, sir. That's for the basic for the betterment of the inmate.
Well, I understand that, but that's pretty broad. As far as inmate welfare fund, what is our revenue last year?
Last year was 5.5.
All right, so it's 5.5 million.
Yes, sir.
All right. And then who makes the determination of what's good spending on the inmates?
That's the committee itself. That's a board. It's governed by a board, which is the superintendents also. And each year they do a need assessment and they present a budget to the board on their need assessment.
If that's not provided to the chairman, I figure he would like to see that because we're appropriating it, but that's $5.5 million of revenue generated. And what's the balance in the account? Are you spending 5.5 or no?
Last year was 2.8.
Okay. All right. So yeah, I think we probably need to know those balances. All right. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions?
Thank you. Thank y'all for being here. Anybody that knows me, that I rely on professionals. So if it's a school issue, my superintendent. If it's a jail issue, it would be my chief jailer or my sheriff. So you mentioned Forest County Regional Jail. In your budget, it is money for that to be improved. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're requesting the funding to send inmates to Forest.
Okay. Are there any improvements to Forest or?
So Derek Chambers, who's over our compliance division of the progress on the regional, has did a site visit on their regionals.
So if a regional is county, so we don't spend any money on those, correct?
We just pay them for the 3270 of the inmates they house.
Okay. That would go for And you're saying the medical bills are paid by y'all?
Yes.
And that's why the offset of the $31.70.
Yeah, so if they get a sick inmate, they send them right back to the state. So
Are y'all looking at increasing that?
the law is 3271. And y'all have to make that determination, increase that law.
Have y'all requested that?
The last year we requested it at $34. So at this point, it has to, for us to put it in our request, the law has to be changed in order for me to produce the numbers of the request.
Okay. How about intake victims that are waiting to be picked up?
I think we spoke to that, like we have basically no backlog on that end of it. Like we said, we take intake everywhere now. We take it in North Mississippi, Central Mississippi, and South. That way it alleviates the backlog of having everybody come to Central Mississippi to be picked up. Usually we used to pick them up. Now we allow the sheriffs, if you drop them off, and we'll take them. That helps with this, that help with the backlog and everything.
So if a sheriff wants to bring a busload down there, he can bring them. Just call and say, we're on the way.
Yes, sir.
How much advance does he got to do?
We don't care. You just send them on. We take them. If he wants to bring them, we'll bring them. We take them. There's no backlog.
So if he calls that morning and say, I'm on the way.
Come on, we say, come on, Sheriff. I don't ever tell them no.
Perfect. Can you give me just a brief explanation how someone on the reentry program, people that who gets to qualify for that?
We did I left off one part of the reentry program. We work with MagCorps with that, but we also doing one other thing. We got, and I'm on my list, I have probation pro, because the probation pro is going to supervise them. Therefore, they need to be job seekers. So we're training them to start looking for jobs. As people get out, we're going to have them a skill. It's going to be a skill that they're employable. And you're right. There's no use having serve safe, because that's a job, but it's not really the job we want. We want them to have a skilled job. That's why we have all those inmate teachers and give those tests when they come in, because then we direct them to the jobs. And so we have the schools set up, and that's what the inmate welfare fund's doing. So that's how it works. Then they have a good job. They get employed.
When they get out or while they're in there with you?
When they get out. So what's going to happen is when they're released, we hand them off to the probation pro, because also if he gets them a job, he's going to collect the fees. They're going to pay their fees. So that's good. But also if they have a job, if you look, morality in a job equals success. Then we look to see recidivism decrease. If we can get them a job, get the probation parole officer to find them the job, get him to supervise them, keep them on the job, do the drug test, then they won't quit the job, then they won't come back to prison. But it's really hard to make it if you don't have a job. And you just can't get a job. The felony really hurts. So then they don't work. They have to commit a crime to come back to prison. That's the revolving door we're trying to stop with probation parole officers helping them find a job. MagCorps, we hope, will help them find a place to live. And so that's important too.
You're teaching a skill.
Right. If he has the skill, but even if he doesn't, he's got to live somewhere, or he's going to live under the bridge, he's going to rob and steal.
Is someone that's in life in prison, do they get to do that?
Whoever gets out gets to do this. We want them to have a job. We don't discriminate who gets to go to school or what have you. And we try to test them to put you in the right school, just like the military would do when you go to the Army. They give you an MOS that they tell you what you're going to be. And we kind of doing that with them. We tell them you're going to be a mechanic. You can do it. We can teach you and we can get you an ASE certification. MagCorps has a grant to pay for the test, the certification, the ASE. So therefore, that's $60 per test. But they're partnered with us, so because they got to find a place to live. Probation Pro got to find a job. And so we got to get the skill. That's why I have all these inmate teachers, because you couldn't afford a teacher. That would be $18 million more if we hired the teachers to teach the skills. But if we don't teach them a job, get them a job, get them a skill and get them a job, they're not going to make it. And that's what we're ahead of the other states doing this, because we're the first state to use the inmate teachers. And so the inmate teachers fill the gap, save the money. You got a good Department of Corrections. It's just hard to, to get you to understand exactly where we're going. This is working. I think we're doing good with it.
I thank you for that. I want folks to come out with a skill. Because that's what we're trying to tell young kids. If you have a skill, you can survive. You can be a productive citizen.
More million with academics and skilled in trades than there is in academics.
I tell kids all the time they ought to go into welding, HVAC. Now, what I do have issue with though is somebody that commits murder by burning somebody up and goes into that program.
If he's gonna get out, he's gonna get out. And we look at it that way. If he's gonna get out, we're about rehabilitation. We're not really about punishment. To live in prison is punishment. And to have to eat what we feed you and don't cover up, it's pretty bad to live there. So we're about rehabilitation, because corrections means corrective behavior. And that's what we're trying to do. So if he's gonna get out,
They're gonna get out.
but the judge gives him a sentence and we gotta live with what the judge gives him. It's terrible what we have people in prison for doing. We want them to get out and do it again. That's our goal. You know, he won't get out. That guy will never get out.
But he went through this program.
Excuse me?
But he went through this program.
Maybe. But he
he-
may be the teacher. He may have been a good teacher. He may have had a job that he could have he was proficient at. And if he could be a teacher, then we want to be a teacher. We don't lock people up and just leave them there, because then that's how we got rid of the gangs. We got everybody busy. Everybody has something to do, has a purpose.
We'll discuss this afterwards, but I sure appreciate y'all. And thank you for answering all our questions. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Senator McLean. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What's the capacity of our regionals right now? Are they mostly full?
Yes, sir.
Very few that have any openings?
Yes, sir. We try to eliminate those, what we call ghost beds at all costs.
Gotcha. And then other line of questioning or one or two questions is on the request you're making for the pay increases. Explain that to me one more time. I thought I heard two different things. I want to make sure I understand what you request.
That's the realignment. It's a realignment for
Was that moving them to market?
in between market, yes. Yeah, that's a comparable.
Sorry, go ahead.
It's the comparable rate that the probation board and deputy commissioner and his HR staff came back. That's more comparable to what he feel like is needed to maintain his staff.
Yeah, we moved some to market several years ago, I think. Are they still?
I think the starting back then was, the starting at the SBB was 34,000, 3271. I want it's on top of my head. Right now, they're at 34,000.
So we should have had some pay increases along the way, but that was over the last 3 or 4 years. None last year, I don't think. But anyway, I just want to get the details of what that is exactly, where they are. If you could get that to the chairman and myself, so we can look at that. Thank you. One other thing, get us a copy of your prisoner count over the last, FY 26, if you don't mind. Thanks.
All right. Any other questions at this point? Commissioner, thank you for coming forward. I know that there's going to be some additional requests, Derek, you and I can work on that throughout the process. I'm going to ask you, and I know you were taking notes at the time, to provide the feedback, provide documentation for the feedback you received from the members today. And I would greatly appreciate that. At this point in time, I'll take a motion for advisory report. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Job.